So, character system and screen. So obviously this is really dependent on what kind of RPG you're building. And, you know, how in-depth you want your RPG to go. How in-depth you want the abilities to go. So, you know, for this specific RPG, what I was thinking of building, you know, I don't like the idea of having a very static class progression where you pick a character class at the beginning of the game and then you can only you know, click through a branch to unlock, you know, a handful of abilities. I mean, that's kind of the old school style of RPGs, of course. You know, but and also kind of like the action RPGs are like that a lot. You know, Diablo, Torchlight, where you have a talent tree that you fill in as you level up. You know, obviously the newer style of RPGs is basically where you you know, you can do anything with your character, right? It's not limited by class. You just pick, you know, either as you play, you gain skills and you build them up, or you can just put points in whatever abilities you want. So, I'm kind of like a hybrid. So, you know, I think character classes are an important part of RPGs because they let you build that kind of rock, paper, scissors, tactical system, you know, where you kind of have a chess game in your battles and in your challenges, as opposed to something like Skyrim or Fallout, you know, which are basically just power fantasies where you can build your guy up until he's God, and then you can kill everyone easily. I don't think those games have a lot of tactical challenge behind them. They're kind of just action games with a pseudo RPG veneer on top. So I can see why, you know, character classes are important. One thing I like is having kind of a larger tree as opposed to having a narrow path that you can pick and you're kind of locked into it. So that's definitely one thing I want to do. And I also like the idea that you know, something like Torchlight, you have your talent tree, but you can also get spells. Anyone can cast spells, not just mages, but you know, anyone can pick up basically an item that gives you abilities. I like that concept where, you know, you could find like a spell book or a, you know, a scroll, and you could learn a spell and be able to cast that. So I kind of like that hybrid system where you have a rough tree, and it doesn't even have to be per character class. It could just be everyone has the same tree, and there's, you know, 5-10 branches, so you can either be a jack of all trades, or you can go down a certain branch. You know, you can specialize in a branch first, and then later on down the day you can go another path and kind of do a hybrid. I kind of like that idea where the tree is available to everyone, but obviously specialization is important for balance in your party. I also like the ability that anyone can gain spells, not just, you know, a mage character. Like, any character can pick up some sort of, you know, spell book, and if they have the right prerequisites, whether it being you know, stats or whatnot, they can learn it and use it. So we have, you know, you have your combat stats, you have your core stats, you have your level, you have abilities, let's say innate abilities, learned abilities. These are found in scrolls. These are unlocked through talent core stats are like strength, constitution, dex, etc. So we don't actually have these in our game right now. Combat stats are, you know, AP, AC, AP, things like that. And then you can even have like resists. This is character. So then obviously you have, you know, experience, XP levels. So most at RPGs, you kill stuff, you get XP, you get to the next level, and then you get to boost core stats and also unlock talent trees. It's pretty standard, and obviously some talent tree items are locked, and you know, items in armor are locked from your core stats. So I actually did some brainstorming on this before, because the RPG I want to build, I don't want to use your standard fantasy, you know, Dungeons and Dragons stats. You know, because the RPG I'm thinking of building is going to be more science fiction style. So, you know, it's more about, you know, you have like spiritual ability, you'd have technical ability, you'd have, you know, obviously raw strength, but also kind of endurance, something like that. Save your core stats, combat stats, which are derived from core stats plus gear, XP and levels, and then you have your level up workflow. So let's see here. Core, game data, game objects. Alright, so let's talk about what we need for this. So we need player character stores XP, some object that checks that used to gain XP determine if level up, we don't just want to set a flag in case you forget to level up or you get something. Add level up counter, and the counter will, you know, display on pause, UI, etc. Little plus signal that they've leveled up. View your screen and increment stats. Pick abilities. So usually you have on the left side you'd have your core stats, on the right side you'd have your talent tree, or they'd be two different pages. Depending on how big your So we already have abilities. Let's go to abilities. Ability helper. So abilities have basically this is an object that's used in a battle. This is not an object that's used as you're leveling your character up, right? Because it doesn't have the requirements or the tree, basically the tree, like if there's prerequisites, things like that. So either we could add so I kind of like the idea of reusing the same object, the ability data object, to determine, because this is the instantiated ability that only exists at runtime in the battle game. So this guy's not going to be around. So what we care about really is the loaded data, which is your ability data, which is this here, right? So really, we already have lists of active and passive effects, so it might be interesting to come up with a schematic for prerequisites. So what kind of prerequisites can you have for an ability? Prereqs, you can have level, you can have other abilities, and you can have stats. So basically you can do a key and a type. Type, key, right? That's a list of type key. That's actually very similar to the global flags, which is a name and a boolean, or you can have values for that. But yeah, I think it'd be better to have it as prerequisites stored in list in ability data. Yeah, that's probably your best option. And of course, one thing with the abilities is these objects are used not only for, so maybe this isn't the best spot, because the thing is, this is the master ability data list. This is used for if you have a flaming sword that shoots fireballs, it has an ability. You know, if you have a healing potion, it has an ability, right? So it's not just things that the player can gain. I think we need a different, I think we're going to need another object to store this stuff for basically our character, our talent tree. Right, so I think the talent tree data is going to have to be a different object. So the talent tree data, what's going to be in that? You're going to have the ability, right, which is going to be a long, and then you're going to have your level is a long, technically an int. No one's going to get to level 4 billion. Level's an int, and then you'd have a list of stats, recs, list of ability recs. I think that makes the most sense, right? Talent tree data. So we're just going to make a new There's the stat requirements. Unfortunately, my CSV parser doesn't really give me good complex parsing. So how about, at least for now, no real stat. So this is your talent tree. So basically, this guy better way for CSV to parse key value, because if we look at our enumerations, I mean you could use some weird hack system where you have like a list of strings, and then you do like an int comma number or something, or dash number. So you'd have to parse it again on the fly to construct it. I'm not sure I like that. You could do something like that, right? Oh, these are the wrong stat type. Yeah, it's not here. We don't have those stats yet, really. So we don't have core stats in the game right now. It makes you realize how stupid core stats are for RPGs. It's just like a number that usually doesn't really change the gameplay that much. Like if you add your strength from 15 to 16, like how much does your gameplay change, right? Unless you unlock new abilities, right? And if that's the case, why didn't you just let the unlocking of the abilities be tied to something else, right? Why is it tied to this little number you have to increment? So, I mean, that's one of the things that I like about RPGs, but I also find frustrating, is that there's this balance between the treadmill of just incrementing numbers and all the fun stuff in RPGs, which is building a character, trying to optimize a build of your items, your abilities, and your tactics, right? So that's the fun part of RPGs. And obviously, questing, exploration, dialogue, things like that. But just, the incrementing in numbers and the grinding, I think, is just, it can be addictive. It's an easy way to build addiction. It's just seeing those numbers go up. And I mean, some of these games have even mocked that with like the kind of the clicker games. You just double-click stuff a million times to see your XP and your stats go up. It's kind of funny. But that's what, I mean, I know that, I think the old school RPGs, they veered away from that, and definitely Dungeons and Dragons, I think one of the great things about that system is the numbers are so small, right? You only go to level 20, you only have, maybe anywhere from 10 to 20 in your stats. The random number range is only a 1 to 20, right, for any sort of attack. So there's a small, the range of possibilities isn't like this huge range. It's kind of discrete, right? And then from there, you can build kind of a story that has a lot of variance, right? So you don't need to have like some of these crazy JRPGs with like 10 million hit points on a boss. I mean, what's the point of having these big numbers? It's just numbers, right? It just makes the arithmetic silly, right? So that's kind of my spiel. I need to stop ranting and start working right. I mean, that's the fun part of game design, is thinking about these things, and kind of exploring them, right? Because there's no right or wrong. It's all about a balance, and kind of thinking about what you like, and where you want to go with your game. And then the great thing about it is you can't. You're not just sitting on the sidelines complaining about some game someone else made. You can say, hey, I want to do this thing in my game, and you can go for it and give it a shot and see if it works or not. So we're gonna have our talent tree data.